So the big question that we're asking is, will the GST rate structure reduce the tax burden on the common man? To discuss that, we are joined by Himangshu. He's a senior editor with the Economic Times. Welcome, Mr. Watts, to Newsnight. Will this four-tier tax structure reduce the burden on the common man compared to what the tax structure today is?
I think it certainly will. As the finance minister said, half the consumer basket is food, and that is among the exempt categories. So it will certainly reduce the burden on the common man. In fact, that is one of the reasons why you've got four rates, because in the ideal world, GST should be one rate, maybe two rates. But because, it could be...
Here we have two standard rates.
Yeah. So it's very important for political acceptability and justice for the common man. Just because you're trying a new tax system, you cannot have a system which puts a lot of burden on them. So this was a very important part of this whole system. And I think for the common man, given his consumption basket, the current system, the proposed four rates, will address any inflationary concerns. So I would welcome that.
Okay. Is the cess approach to funding compensation far more economically wise than funding compensation by levying taxes?
It certainly is, because, if you try to compensate the states by taxes, then you will have to levy a much higher tax to get the same amount of money to give to the states. I don't know the exact numbers, but supposing you need 50,000 crores.
That's what the broad estimate is for 1 year.
So with cess, you can target to raise 50,000 crores and give it as compensation. If you do it as tax, given the center state tax share, devolution thing, you will need to tax something like 1,50,000 or 1,70,000 crores to be able to compensate the state the same amount. So
because the Kerala finance minister had wanted that a separate tax be imposed and not cess. That's on record.
That I think is the conventional wisdom, because as soon as tax is raised, then states automatically have a share, whereas in cess they do not. So he might be thinking from that perspective. But as far as the public is concerned, for the same purpose, to compensate the states, you have two options, and one which requires a much heavier taxation. So why should you go for that?
So now we know that there will be cess on demerit goods or sin goods like luxury cars, aerated drinks, tobacco, etc., over and above the highest tax rate of 28%. So would you say that this would impact only a minuscule section of the population which can afford it?
Of course, if somebody is buying a 15 lakh car, 20 lakh car, or if somebody is buying things which he should not be consuming, like tobacco, there's absolutely no case for having a concessional tax rate. And also, the existing tax rate is also not very low on these goods.
Absolutely.
So it's not going to be a sudden change, a very steep change. But because it's a new system being introduced, you're not sure what will be the level of compliance, although compliance will increase, but there are going to be a lot of concerns of teething problems. We do not know what they are. So to start with, it's best to be cautious, because one thing which this government, this country cannot afford is this system not working out or finances of states coming down. So you have to keep that cushion. So what it does is it will make sure the implementation goes ahead without states getting drained of finances, because they raised this concern. Because financial power is one of the key powers of a state government, which they are more or less surrendering. So it is important that this compensation happens. Once it is rolled out and the tax starts working, it's possible they might think that these taxes can be reduced.
Okay. Now, at this point in time, we can say that there is no consensus insofar as dual control is concerned. Do you expect that to be sorted out? Because it is expected that that issue will be taken up at the GST Council tomorrow.
I think it will be sorted out because, the good thing is there is a broad consensus that GST should be implemented. Every political party is more or less on board.
There has been a lot of back and forth on this issue.
See, there will be back and forth because these are very important issues. Again, it's a question of control, which some states fear they'll be losing. There's also the issue of, making sure that the tax administration is effective and not too intrusive on the SSE. So I think under these broad principles, states will have some legitimate concerns, which I'm sure will be addressed.
Okay.
Like even in the tax rates, there was a lot of to and fro. People were not agreeing on things. The companies want something, the traders want something, the central government wants something. But eventually, once
it may not turn out to be as intractable as it has seemed to be over the past many months. But Mr. Watts, no clarity as yet insofar as the tax on services is concerned. We don't know whether they'll be falling in the standard rate category, but logic suggests they might well fall either in the 12% slab or the 18% slab. What's your sense on what it could be?
My sense is it could be 18, because many services are already taxed at a higher rate than 12%. And, our economy is tilted. Our GDP comes more from services than agriculture or manufactured goods. And if bulk of the economic activity is from services, I think the tax rate on that, we can do with a slightly higher tax on services. It should not be a very steep jump, because now even the common man, lower middle class, is using services like booking a train ticket, or you're paying your mobile phone bills. All this has a component of service tax.
Absolutely. And currently it is around that 18% mark. So if they stick at 18%, it won't make much of a difference.
There are a few cesses on that. So
it comes to around 18%, doesn't it?
So there'll be no shocker coming, but slightly higher perhaps it would be.
All right.
Which I'm fine with.
On gold, there was earlier decision taken to impose tax of 2%. That is put on hold for now. A decision on that may be taken later, but we leave it at that. Mr. Watts, thank you so much for having joined us on Newsnight tonight.